I'm Nick Brake, Superintendent, Owensboro Public Schools, and we have several guests and special guests to introduce very quickly this afternoon. First, our Board of Education. I think John Blaney, our chair, is here, and Mr. Steve Knight and Ms. Kate Lozon are all here. And we have two past principals of Owensboro High School, Mr. Joe Conway and Mr. Larry Moore. Both are here. Glad to see you all here today. And we have another very special guest, Miss Burnette's brother from Tennessee. Tim Atkinson is here, sitting next to Anita. And of course, Anita's husband, Deck Burnette, needs no introduction, but he's here next to Anita as well. Well, Anita Burnette has been the 25th principal of Owensboro High School, and she is the second female principal to hold the job. The first one actually held the role of interim principal for a year, but she's really the first true principal that's held the position for the last 13 years. And to say she's distinguished herself is really an understatement, but there are so many different things to talk about and to make note of. But first of all, I think it's worth noting that her peers in this state have honored her twice, once with the Davis Ormond Award given by the Kentucky Association of Secondary Principals in 2005, and then as Kentucky Principal of the Year in 2010. Under her tenure as principal here, the school has experienced really unprecedented growth in enrollments, the development and flourishing of a wonderful fine arts program, an athletic and gym complexes that complement the great facility that is the high school. She also was here to bring a very high standard of college and career readiness to the school during her 13 years. She served as well as assistant principal, as department chair, and as a special ed teacher. And I've had the pleasure in the 13 years that she's been the principal of Owensboro High School, and knowing her and actually working with her through a lot of that time as a partner, as a parent. My kids actually started at Owensboro High School and being involved in events here prior to my term as superintendent, so I knew her really as a parent. And then since in the last 2 years as a co-worker. And all the years, today is about the only day that I ever, in all these years of working in partnership, and certainly in the last 2 years being her direct supervisor, that I actually had to give her an order and say, you have to be here today. You have to be here today, because she is not the kind of person who likes this sort of thing. But we felt that her career, just in the greatness that she brought to this high school, not only in her time as a teacher and assistant principal, but certainly as principal, was worthy of this type of recognition. So thanks for coming, Anita. I don't have to hit you on the last evaluation with something like that. You know, I worked with her very closely. I was an administrator at OCTC, and I was actually the principal of the students that go to that campus. And so for a lot of years, we worked together, and we actually shared students. You know, and I got to know a lot of the kids that knew her as a principal. And it was really at that time that I came to really know and respect her work. And it's not just a level of care and concern for students. It is a love. And it is from the heart. And the greatest part about it is the kids know, they know how much she cares about them and how much she loves them. And you know what? You can feel it when you walk through the halls of this school. You can feel that kind of culture. And in talking to the kids, you know, I had the opportunity to talk to the advisory group I meet with about what kind of person do you want to take her place. And almost to a kid, they said, well, we want somebody just like her. We want somebody who really cares. We want somebody who cares enough to be there after school for our events. We want somebody who cares about our future. And it is really going to be hard to replace you. And that level of love and that level of culture that you brought to the school that surrounded these kids with everything you had. So, as a parent, it became really obvious to me in seeing her at all of my kids' events, whether it was in the arts, whether it was in the sports, whether it was academic competition, the long hours. She's everywhere. We had an athletic signing down in the gym just a few minutes ago. Great thing. She was there. And I looked up and noticed her just a few minutes after that, and she had different clothes on. And I said, "Where is your phone booth? Where do you go and spin around and come out and ready to go to the next event?" Because that's literally the way Anita operates. You can't keep up with her. I certainly have had a hard time keeping up with her in the 2 years that I've worked alongside her. As a superintendent, I've come to know her as someone who really, really takes seriously the high standard of excellence that this high school has and has built, and the tradition that's here that you can see everywhere in this school. She's very fair, but very firm, highly professional, and there is not a principal in this state, as I travel around and talk to superintendents and in all parts of the state as part of my job, she is one of the most widely respected principals I think we've had in this state in a long time. She has a reputation around the state, and as I go to these meetings, their question is, how are you going to replace her? She's got such a great reputation. And of course, the thing that I love the most is her passion. She is a passionate defender of the kids in this school and of this institution. And she will take that with her, and she will be as passionate a defender of this institution and what it stands for as she walks out the door her last day as she has been her first day on the job. I remember my first month of school as the superintendent. I go into the office and I check in with Anita a lot and just like to see her mostly. So rarely do I have bad news to bring, but so I sat down, and as always is the case, there's a line of students. There's people wanting to see her, and I usually have to get in line. That's why I always carry my iPad, because if I have to sit down and wait, I'll do some emails. And so I sat down next to a young lady, didn't know who she was. I still don't really remember her name, the class last year that graduated. And Carol, says, or Joyce, I'm sorry, says, well, we'll try to get you in front of her or something like that. She's always trying to grab a few minutes, and the student looked at me and said, her neck was red when she went in there. She says, "Are you going to make it more red? Because if not, you need to let me go before you." And that introduced me as the superintendent to what I like to call the Burnette barometer, to see what kind of day she's having. All I have to do now is walk by the office, and if it's red, I'll stop in and say, "You okay? Is everything going okay?" But it has really, Anita, just speaking to you, it has been a great pleasure and a great honor to work alongside you. You really, truly are one of the best, and I don't know how I can ever thank you for helping me through the first 2 years. And all the years that I was able to work with you in all the different capacities I described. You're a special, special person, and you've done great things for our school. You've left it better than you found it, and this school district and this high school is going to be forever indebted to you. And we have in place Mr. DeLacy, who I know will and has already learned a lot from you and will continue the great tradition that you and others have built. I often kidded Anita at sports events, and I really felt bad because I would go and sit and be able to watch our great athletic teams. And we know Anita, she loves sports. She loves to go to all the events. And I used to feel guilty that I sit there and watch the events, and she's buzzing around. And, I'd sit there with Deck all the time and think, gosh, one day she's going to sit and watch a game, by us. So I told her I was going to do this, and Anita, you now have a lifetime athletic pass. You can come to every OHS game in any sport forever. Thank you. So I think Ms. Christy Smith is going to say a few words on behalf of the school, and we have some students, and then we'll give you the chance to say some things to Ms. Burnette. And before I sit down, I do want to, I don't know if Miss Betsy Eli is here, but Miss Betsy Eli is a parent here who did this wonderful cake. This is not a model of Owensboro High School. This is a cake. And so let's just thank her real quick before... And here's Christy Smith.
Okay, I'm going to try not to look at you because I'll cry if I do. Bear with me if I do. I'm going to try not to cry because I'm on film and it probably wouldn't be very attractive. I'm Christy Smith. I think I know just about everybody in here. I'm one of Miss Burnette's assistant principals. I have been in that position for 8 years. I taught here for 4 years before that. I had taught in a couple of other schools in our city before I came to Owensboro High School. And I was a little bit apprehensive about coming here because of things I had heard in the community. I had always grown up in the county system, and I was a little bit apprehensive. And when I got here and met with Miss Burnette, she interviewed me, and I went to my mom's after the interview, and I said, she's like a little Sandy Duncan in Peter Pan. That's what she reminds me of. She's this little bitty person. She's got a haircut like her, and she could play Peter Pan on stage. I said, but she was so kind and soft-spoken. Well, when I started teaching here and had some more experiences with Mrs. Burnette, the only way I can describe it is it felt like coming home. 12 years later, this is still my home, probably a bigger percentage of time than the house I live in, because we're here so much as administrators and educators. But it is truly my honor to be here today to speak on behalf of our faculty, staff, and students, our OHS family, as we call it. I had asked the past couple weeks for some faculty and staff members to send me some emails about working with Ms. Burnette, and I'm going to share some of those with you today so that I could truly represent our building. And I'm also going to share some of my thoughts about working with Anita for the past 12 years. But how to start telling you, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you it's Anita Gale Atkinson Burnette. I know because she tells me her mom always hollered, Anita Gale, get in here. One teacher put it, she is a dyed-in-the-wool red devil with compassion and work ethic ad infinitum. And that sums her up. She is a wife, mother, daughter, sister, grandmother, forever teacher. She is Tennessee through and through, with a little Georgia Bulldog mixed in. Go SEC. Personally, Miss Burnette has been an inspiration to me. She has been a mentor, a role model, my boss, sometimes my mother, and my friend. Pretty much, when I grow up, I want to be Anita Burnette. Like I said, many members of our OHS family have written emails, and they feel the same way I do, and I'd like to share a couple of those with you. The most important part of her leadership legacy is her determination to do what is best for students. She always takes into consideration the purpose of the behavior our students demonstrate. She attempts to understand the correlation between a student acting out and the potential negative circumstances they are experiencing in their lives. For this reason, they love and trust her to be fair and caring in all decisions. Anita is always present to share academic and extracurricular successes with our students. They have grown to expect her attendance at everything, and they do. She has always been loyal to her teachers and staff at OHS. She often mothers us, and we feel lucky to have worked with her. Another student writes, and this one really touched me because I know what this teacher has been through. I have always appreciated that Mrs. Burnette holds us to high standards and high expectations, and she sets an example of that herself. She doesn't shy away from discussing problem issues with us when it is needed. However, she is very responsive to individual needs and treats us with understanding and compassion regarding personal and family issue. I sure have been the beneficiary of that this year. We appreciate the fact she understood we work hard, but our families needed to be a priority. We are grateful for her understanding of what it is like to be a mom. I never had to explain why someone else had to hold my child's hand when she needed to have a shot. I never needed to worry who was going to take care of my kids if they were sick. When my grandmother had a stroke, I got to say goodbye to her before she died. If there was a problem and I needed to go, I know that Miss Burnette would send me. This teacher also mentions our Ruby Pain training that Miss Burnette brought to us. That training helped us to understand our students so much better and helped us to relate to them so much better, and it's been a blessing to all of us. This is from an old pal. I started working with Anita in her classroom when I worked at Seven Hills Elementary with a couple of students. She asked me to come work in her department 3 times before I came in 1994. It was a great move for me. Thanks for all you've done for me and all the students you've had, and some of the ones you didn't even have in class. You've always been over generous, and I know someday you will be rewarded for what you've done for others. One more that worked with Anita. When I was 20 years old, I was hired as a teacher's aide at Owensboro High School. My main job was to work with a variety of teachers in vocational and special needs. Anita was one of those teachers. The kids we had in class are now grown adults with kids of their own, but I know they are still her kiddos. I worked for 2 years with Anita before I decided to go back to school to pursue a career in teaching. I am now on my 18th year as a teacher, but I consider some of the most valuable lessons that I learned, not in an education classroom or as a teacher, but by watching the compassion and sheer joy that Anita had and continues to have for her kids. And then this one you'll really appreciate. I can't say what she means to me in a word or two. Well, I don't say much in a word or two. Can you guess? But if I have to, thank you for all you have done for the kids, OHS, our community, my family, and me. I love you, and I will miss you. P.S. I'm glad to know that Molly isn't your favorite anymore. I am. I love you. Amy Harper. You know, it has not always been easy to do this job for any of us, including Mrs. Burnette. As in any family, we have shared sorrows and heartaches. We have lost dear family members. We have lost current and former students and colleagues. We have battled cancers and other illnesses together. We have had students who didn't succeed to graduation, whom we all felt that we had failed. Mrs. Burnette taught us through her words and deeds how those situations are to be handled. She showed courage and strength. Along with these difficult times, we have shared many joys and triumphs. We have seen many new Red Devil babies come into our lives, including 3 of the most handsome grandsons you've ever seen. We have been victorious over our battles with illnesses. We have seen students succeed whom others had discounted. Every May or June, depending on the weather, at 7 p.m. at the Owensboro Sports Center is one of our biggest success stories every year. Mrs. Burnette has laughed at our jokes. She has talked to us about and forgiven our mistakes. And she has cried with us when we felt broken. Once a devil, always a red devil. There's another saying, once a Mrs. Burnette kiddo, always a Mrs. Burnette kiddo. She'll tell us, yeah, they were mine, you know, because we've gotten a lot of their kids, and her students are now having kids that are students. The changes in the culture in this school since Mrs. Burnette has been here is immeasurable. I was evaluating a teacher, and in his post-evaluation conference, he shared something with me that was very touching. He told me that Anita Burnette saved his career, that he had all but given up on education until Anita hired him at OHS. She gave him a renewed faith in his profession. That is very powerful. And this is a great teacher that I'm talking about. It would have been a shame for him to give up on his career. Our students adore her, but most of all, they trust her. And which most of us knows is not easy for teenagers to trust adults. She always says, I'm going to give you some old lady advice. And to touch on a little bit of what Nick says, you don't know how many teachers come to me in a week that come by and say, you know, they might need a personal day or they might need to ask a favor. Is she in a good mood? Are her ears red? You know, so we use that as a good gauge, barometer too. And I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I haven't even talked to her all day. But one thing that I wanted to let you know, could I have Joseph Hunt and Kate Sook come up here with me? Bear with me, guys. I'm almost finished. David Johnson told me to keep it under 5 minutes. If you'll just come stand beside me. We all know how fantastic the student body at Owensboro High School is. And this is probably when I'm going to get a little bit upset because I love these students so much. Every year, we buy senior T-shirts, and Miss Burnette does not know anything about this. I'm sorry. Every year, we buy senior shirts for our graduating class from money that they have raised through various fundraisers. To honor Miss Burnette this year, the senior class of 2015 decided to pay for their own senior T-shirts and donate the money to a fund set up in Mrs. Burnette's name. This was an idea brought to me by the senior class officers. Totally their idea of what to do with the money, to get the money. The money donated from our senior class, our OPS family, and community, and I've already talked to Dr. Brake, so it's okay. Sorry, the money donated from our senior class, OPS family, and community will be used to remodel one of our classrooms here at OHS to be used as an extended education center for our special needs students. It is our hope that this will impact the lives of OHS students for years to come, just as Anita Burnette has done through her tenure in education. If anyone would like to donate to this, we'll take donations. We've asked our faculty to also to donate to this very, very worthy cause. And for those of you that don't work in special ed department, we have a lot of needs with our kids to make them independent when they leave us. We have some kids who have moderate disabilities, but that they can learn. We have students that go out and make pizza boxes at Domino's, and it gives them a job to do. We're going to have, when this extended learning facility is complete, we're going to have a way for them to count money, to learn how to count money, to cook, to wash their clothes, and also to make pizza boxes and anything out there that is needed for them. And this will all be done in honor of Miss Burnette. Miss Burnette, we love you. We're going to miss you. And that's it. Now we can all hug her and have cake.
You all know me well enough to know I absolutely hate public speaking. I want to thank everyone for the past 27 years. They've been great. And I've had a great experience, a great career, and this is my family. And thank you for coming. Aries, come up here and give me a hug. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you for your support of all of our students and this school and our school community. And it's a very special place, and it's very special because of our staff and because of our students This is Arius. This is Airball. And where did my other two guys go? They left. Where's Kate? And they're there. Okay. It's very special because we have young people in our school school community like these young folks. And Mr. Jacob is there. All these kids wave. You're mine. You're my kids. So thank you all for coming. I so appreciate it. Heather's one of my kids. Sarah's one of my kids. Todd went to Henderson. Amy's one of my kids. So Amy's my favorite. Yeah. And I just want to thank you all for coming. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with it's one of my kids. Thank you for one of the opportunities, the opportunity to be here and be a part of this. And this is a great institution. It's a great district. And everyone, I mean everyone, should have a secretary like Joyce Martin. So, but thank you again, and like I said, I hate public speaking, and I didn't have anything planned for today, and I thank Dr. Brake for these very kind words, and Christy, thank you. I know that's hard to do. Kay, come up and get some Kay. Be careful where you cut this pretty one, and you're not cutting the pretty one, okay? And if you not, this is my brother Tim. I'm so proud he could be here. He's my older brother, and as I tell everybody, he's been trying to keep me out of trouble for a long time. So I know I drove him, my cousin drove him crazy in college because we followed him around everywhere he went. So, but thank you all very much.